Google Street is great because, especially if you're not local or you don't even want to waste your time, take a look at the grass and the shrubbery and the landscaping in the area. If it's a fucking mess, that will tell you. If people can't even take care of their grass, that will tell you what the properties and the tenant base in that location will be like. Very important. So this guy wrote in on, I think, YouTube. How do you determine if a property is a good location? And that's a really good question. So there's a few things that I do. Number one, I Google Street View it. All right. So the reason why I Google Street View it is because when a property is for sale, they'll typically clean it up. If you go back in time with respect to Google Street View, which they do, they film back in time, you're going to be able to see the condition of even the lawn. You know, is there shit scattered all over the property? What did they do before to the property? You know, and this is in the event that, you know, you're doing a very high level, 10,000 foot fucking view of the property before you even get before and after pictures if it was renovated or whatever. But that will tell a story. Also, Google Street is great because, especially if you're not local or you don't even want to waste your time, take a look at the grass and the shrubbery and the landscaping in the area. If it's a fucking mess, that will tell you. If people can't even take care of their grass, that will tell you what the properties and the tenant base in that location will be like. Very important, okay? Next thing that I do is take an overview. I'll go into Google and I want to see within walking distance, call it within a mile. I want to see what retailers are around there. I want to, typically I love to see a Starbucks. I love to see, if you're in the US, a Whole Foods. If different types of gyms, like in the US, like an LA Fitness or almost like a fitness club and spa type thing. There's certain demographics that frequent those type of retailers that tells you something about the tenant base or the demographics essentially in the localized area.
Because if those people are willing to spend $100 a month on just taking care of themselves, they're more than likely to be taking care of their property.
Yeah, it tells you something. It tells you something about the location, right? If even in the event that the property is in a bad state of repair, it tells you that there's opportunity there because those retailers already did a lot of the demographic sub-market research for you, right? They already know that they're pulling these type of good people and respectable people in that area, and that's why they set up shop. So,
and then what about going there in person?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm going to get into that. I want to know a little bit out further. Are there any bus routes in the area? Because a lot of tenants, they don't drive. That might help. What kind of schools are in the area, especially in the U.S. We don't really have this over here in Canada, but I also get on Google and search up. I can't remember some of the websites, but you can easily search for school district ratings. And a lot of tenants will base their decisions on where they want to live based on the school districts, especially in the States. That's a very volatile situation over there. So we want to really take a look at what the quality of schools that are in the area. Something that I've done in the past is you have to go on site. So when I go on site, this is what I do. First, I'll talk to the police. So either if I find a cop in the location, or if I end up finding one, driving or whatever, and say he stopped somewhere, I'll go and talk to them. I've done this multiple times. I've done this in almost every single building that I've gone on site in the U.S. that I wanted to take down and buy. I've spoken to the police department. If I couldn't find a cop nearby. And I asked them, tell me about the property. Do you have any issues in the property? And then once they tell me about the property and they're like, oh yeah, property, I don't really know too much about the property. Okay, well, this is where it is located. Can you tell me about the location and pocket of this submarket here? And they start dishing. And the best thing about cops when they do this is they're always way harder than they probably need to be. So it allows you to make a very conservative decision based off of their predetermined, mindset of having to deal with shit every day, right? They have this, they already have this negative kind of outlook, I find, which is, rightfully so. Think about what they deal with on a regular basis, right? Yeah. So if you're actually in a good location, they'll tell you if you're in a good location. But if you're in a bad location, they'll exacerbate their fucking decision about it, or their their opinion. Yeah. So that's something that's a very important. That's something that I found very valuable, because you will never see someone talk about a property, especially the agents. People don't even realize, that even live in buildings sometimes, what's actually going on. I remember walking into a building one time, and the cops, this was in Chicago, one of the cops ended up telling me that there has been some issues with drugs in that particular building. And when you even talk to the agent doesn't know. Obviously, the agent's not going to tell you. But even tenants in the building didn't even know. So it was a really weird kind of situation. But the cops knew because, people they'll call the cops if they see like weird shit going on. Something that I'll also do is I'll sit, especially on a weekend. I like doing this on weekends, Friday, Saturday nights. I'll sit at the property like past midnight, maybe like 11 to like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I just want to see. I want to see what's going on. I want to see who's walking the property, who's walking the neighborhood. I'll drive around, do a couple loops, go back, watch the property, watch the neighborhood, see who's walking around, what kind of demographic it is, and then put myself in like a single mom's position that's, say, coming off work, working midnights, or maybe not even midnights, working like an afternoon shift at like, say, a local hospital or who knows what, grocery store or whatever, that's got to walk home. Would I feel safe? Right? That's an important thing to consider, right? I do rent to a lot of single moms and those kind of situations. So you'd want to make sure that you're not automatically eliminating a very renter heavy demographic. Then I'll talk to tenants, especially if it's in a building. I'll actually talk to tenants as they leave the building. I'll ask them like, hey, what do you think about the neighborhood? I don't talk about the building too much with the tenants until I start talking to them about the neighborhood. Then they'll start to open up a little bit, because it's a little bit weird. Hey, what do you like about the building? It's a weird conversation.
And do you just say something along the lines of like, hey, like I'm looking to move to this area?
So that's another thing that I was going to say. So the main question that I ask tenants that leave the property, or in the event I go into the property, if it's a larger property, you can actually go on site. And there's no notice of like, hey, don't bother the tenants. I'll ask people this exact question. Hey, my daughter is thinking about moving into the area. What do you think? Or it's specifically this building. She's thinking about renting a unit in this building, and I wanted to come here and see it and get your opinion on it. And a lot of times people will be like, oh, you got to be careful. And again, a young girl, she's going to school. I'll say that, like, well, what's she doing? She's going to school. She's young. She's 18. No, this isn't for her. And then sometimes I'll get like North Miami Beach. I brought that question up multiple times. Oh, yeah, she's going to love it. It's great. There's all kinds of things for her. LA Fitness down the road. There's a Starbucks down the road. There's tennis courts over here. It's great. Beach is just 5 minutes away. So you start having those conversations that when an older woman, specifically, I feel like an older woman, once you start getting into the conversation that, has kids and, and you mentioned your child wants to move into the neighborhood and she's a young woman, how is she going to feel? Is she going to feel safe? And she says yes, you're good. You're good. That's really once you're on site, the cops and elderly women that you ask their opinion about the building in the submarket, as well as anybody else, especially if they have kids, and you bring up that kid question to them that, hey, I have a kid moving into the area for school and she was thinking about renting this place. What do you think? And if all those boxes are checked, you got a green light. So that's what I think.